Cheryl.
Oh, hi, Wynne. Hi, Vicki.
Hi.
So happy to see you again. It's so much
Oh,
fun, all these conversations that we get to have with you.
Mhm.
oh, thank you. I'm so glad you guys had me back. It's always fun to work with you too. I
And
thoroughly
it's
enjoy it.
yeah,
Wow.
exactly. We were just just chit-chatting before this conversation, and oh my gosh, so much fun to laugh and
Yes. Well, and
giggle
you
with
keep
you.
doing these like fun and fantastic things that
Yeah.
in the pregame, listeners and
Mhm.
viewers, things that Wynn and Cheryl have done that I will never, ever, 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 ever do. Nope.
Never
Many
say
things probably, but
never say never, Vicky.
I know,
Never say
right?
never.
That's what I've
I
learned.
don't
That's what I learned.
know.
Okay,
I don't
on that
know.
topic, Cheryl, you just did RAGBRAI,
Yes.
the ride around across Iowa in
Yeah.
July, and you had a great post called "The Sorest Rump," or as it
Yes.
as your sorest rump. Is it feeling better?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Things are fine. I was
Phew.
surprised. I was very surprised because we've never ridden 7 days in a row. We've
Mm,
never um, accomplished that much distance. We've done 60 miles one day, but doing, 3
mhm,
days over 80 miles and
yeah,
then, small rides in between like 50 and 40, which are a
Yeah.
lot actually for
yeah,
most people. And then to mix in, I thought, oh, there's just no way we're going to be able to do this. So
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised at how well it went
Yeah.
and learned a lot about the dynamics of biking and making it those distances and
Mhm,
what you have to
Yeah.
do to kind of respect your body so that
mhm.
you can actually accomplish it. Yeah.
Right. Well, you were just,
Yeah.
we were just chatting and you were saying that one of the things was to get off the bike even for a
Hmm.
short amount of time.
Yeah.
Tell us
Right.
what
So
you
it's an annual event in Iowa, and it's just an incredibly beautiful experience, which I did not expect when we were conceiving this whole thing. It was, of course, around a campfire with
yeah.
a glass of wine or two, and all of us talking about our bucket lists. And one of my cousins, Mike and Gail, were with us, cousins from Missouri, so
Yeah.
they knew about this, and they said, "Oh, it's something we've always wanted." And my husband pipes in and says, "Oh yeah, I've always wanted to do that." I'm looking at him going, "I've never heard of this thing." So Gail and I right away we go, oh, we'll be SAG. SAG is like support and gear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yes.
we just ride around the event. We meet you at the end with cookies
Yep.
and milk, and we just it's great in the middle of the day while you're killing yourself. We're stopping at restaurants, and I was all in. And then Larry suggested after we that maybe I should ride with him. And so we had this whole debate and conversation that I would only agree to go if he agreed that if I needed SAG and had to stop, that we could.
Yeah.
So he agreed for that. And then, of course, on the airplane ride towards Iowa, he's like, well, I don't really think we're going to need that. And
Oh.
believe
Yeah.
that's kind of
Oh.
failure. And I'm like, you know,
Oh my gosh. He's planting it as, a seed of
Mhm.
failure thinking, and you're thinking of it as that's my relief, that's my lifeline,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, if I
Boy.
feel like I'm at the end of driving riding in 100-degree temperatures up and down hills all day, and I think I'm at my end,
Yeah.
I really did think, despite all the training we did, in preparation, I really did think this was gonna be excessively challenging
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
me, and now we're riding towards the event with a tandem, not his single bike. He can't
Yeah.
really ride it by himself because,
Yeah.
believe it or not, the weight on the back helps balance it. It's
Ye
shocking,
Mm.
but it
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Mm.
And, so now I'm panicking, but I was just completely surprised by so many things in
Well,
that experience.
and Gail ended up writing as well, right?
No, Gail stayed. She was our SAG. Yeah,
Okay.
she took the
Oh,
truck every
okay.
day and brought it around, and yeah, she's not a bicyclist, and so
Okay.
yeah, she
So
stayed SAG.
she held her sag ground, huh?
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
wonderful, and again, you can't really do it without a support person to help
Mhm.
carry
Yeah.
gear. And,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of vital.
Wow. When
Yeah.
you
That
talked
is
about getting off the bike every day, the thing that I'm always amazed about when people really do an endurance, vacation like this, maybe vacation is not the right word,
Yeah. Stretch.
adventure, I always think about the recovery time. Maybe it's just because as I've gotten older, Wynn and I've talked about, proactive a leave and things to do before you exercise. Did you have a ritual every day when the riding was done so that you knew what you needed to do to, really set yourself up for the next day? And I guess what I'm wondering too is, were your legs so like jelly that you could barely walk around to get the t-shirt and other fun stuff?
Yeah. Well, the first big shock, because we were camping, which I'm not a camper either,
Yeah.
or a long distance cyclist. So there was two challenges. And the camping in Iowa in the humidity and heat is just even more special because you get back to the end of the day, you can't get in your tent. And it's like a sauna. So you're not gonna like you just want to lay
right.
down and take a nap. And so
Yeah.
you're not gonna do that. That's not part of the program. And the
Yeah.
other thing is, of course, you have the porta potties, and they have 20,000 riders. We're all descending into the same town, but we're staying in different campsites. Some people stay in people's homes. A few people have these monstrous, um, trailers and things that they sleep in. Some people stay in
Mm-hmm.
hotels, very few, because there's not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
hotels. So it's mostly
Mm-hmm.
camping. And
Mm-hmm.
so the porta potties are kind of big, and usually you have about 1,000 riders in your particular area camping, and
Yeah.
usually you get 6 to 8 porta potties. So you just do the math. It's not good. And
No.
they don't care if they run out of toilet paper at 8 o'clock at night, the first night. And so if you by morning, you've got these long lines of people, and you got your toilet paper tucked under your arm because, of course, you buy it your own, and
Yeah.
you're offering it to everybody, so you're buying a lot of toilet paper, and you're waiting, and it's just the whole experience. So back to your kind of question is that was really daunting, and we get there the first day, and there's this tradition, which is really cool about RAGBRAI. The first day you ride to the Mississippi or the Missouri River, and you
Yeah.
put your back tire in. That's the beginning, the official beginning. That's like, it was just a little short 16-mile ride. You
Yeah.
we
Mm-hmm.
got there and we found out, like everything else, everybody's monopolizing the opportunity to make money. So
Yeah.
the really cool, soft little beach area where you could just walk over, put your tire in and walk
Mm-hmm.
out, that you paid for. The the people that didn't pay, we had a cliff we had to carry a tandem over in the mud, your shoes, everything, down to the water in the wheat. I mean, it was all these people are doing the free one, and then like 2 or 3 people are over there in the really posh area,
Yes.
with the
Yes.
photographer getting pictures and the whole thing.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we're
And
like,
you had
okay,
photos to prove this. It was a
Yeah.
little muddy. Yeah.
a little muddy. So we
Yeah.
get back to camp, and the first night they don't have shower service, and you're like, what? And then we get to the end of the night, we're like, okay, we're gonna wash our face at least and brush our teeth.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
facilities. You're doing it with a water bottle, splash, splash, doing your toothbrush right there in front of all your neighbors that are tightly packed like sardines, by the way. And so it's the whole thing. And I'm thinking, we really haven't even started the ride yet. The next day, we got up at the crack of dawn thinking we're going to do the big part of the ride in the morning when it's still cool. So, at 5 o'clock, your alarms go off, but you don't even need them because everyone's getting up at the same time. And
Yeah.
it's like being in a gigantic dormitory.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and we're
Plus
all
you're up
sitting
with the
in line
sun. The
with our
sun's
toilet
coming up.
paper. Yeah, the
Yeah.
sun's
Yeah.
barely coming up. You're slipping into your gear, and you get on the bike, and that is what just changed me. We get on the bike in the morning, it's crisp. There's like this fog hanging over the road, and I don't know if you can picture Iowa, but it's just this soft rolling hills for miles and
Mm-hmm.
miles you can see ahead. And you got the fog and the cornfields to your right and left, and little farms that are just ridiculously charming. But then the
Yeah.
sun's coming up, and it's streaming through the clouds, kind of like shards of light that just like come down onto the road. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, it was like a cathedral. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just in
Oh,
awe, and like having this, out of body. I was in the back of the bike, just having this out of body experience, feeling, connected to all 20,000
Yeah.
people and the road and the tires and the experience. And it just like,
yeah.
and that
Yeah.
is what every morning, it was such a privilege that I got to get up and see this little different, but the same thing. And it
Mhm.
just drove me, and all the camping and the heat and all those things
Yeah.
just ended up fading
Mm.
compared to that experience of that ride, and the people were so kind. You'd ride along the road and the young children would be holding out their hands so they could touch yours as you rode by. Or they'd
Oh.
hand you an otter pop. Or there'd be the
Oh.
cutest little kid there with the garden hose. And if you said, "Yes, please," he would spray you down,
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
so, I mean, and they had lemonade stands and families out there cheering you on with flags. I mean, it was just an absolute incredible experience. And yes, camping is not the thing that I would choose to do, but it just paled
Yeah.
in comparison to this amazing
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
That's
And I did have a bum knee. One knee, tends to get swollen after you
Mhm.
about 50 miles. So every night we'd go back to the central area where that's where you go because that's where you go. And they had ice cold waters and sodas and
Oh,
everything and ice cold beer, no
mm,
wine, no
mm,
televisions, no
mm.
mirrors
no.
a week. And
No.
and they had a charging station, if you can imagine, like everybody's all their Garmin's and all the stuff that you need
Oh,
to be
yeah.
lighting your cell phone
Yeah.
and stuff to have the path, not that you need
Oh
the
gosh.
route, but whatever. And so thousands of people would be all hooked up to these charging stations all night. And we'd sit around and I'd ice my knee. And as soon as it cooled down just a little bit, we'd head into town and try to get a bite to eat and hit the hay. But it was odd that I did not have the sore muscles. I noticed every day I
Yeah.
got stronger and stronger. Even at my age, people, even at my age, the muscles respond to that kind of
Yeah.
punishment. I was getting
Yeah.
stronger and stronger. And because we're forced to get off the bikes in every town, every little town,
Yeah.
and they bring you, you don't really get a choice. You go through the town and you can stop, eat, sit in the grass, listen to music. It's just
Yeah.
incredible.
But
And
maybe that was the secret, that
that
there
was
was that recovery that was sort of necessary and built in, maybe?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
Mm.
that made all the difference, and I would have not known that, but if you're pushing yourself, like Gwen was talking
Yeah.
about the ride she did for 80 miles and got so sore, by the end of it, she had to sit on a cold plate that was in the refrigerator. I thought that was kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
yes.
probably never got
Yeah.
off the bike that whole ride. You
Yeah.
probably stayed on it pretty much the
Yeah.
80 miles, yeah.
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 There's a lesson there, I think.
Oh, for lots of things, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So in your post, you talked, and maybe this is part of the secret of recovery too, is the pork chops. And it's funny, my friends who are cyclists, and like whether they've done RAGBRAI or not, have
Yeah.
heard of these pork chops. So
Yeah.
tell us about the pork chops, and have you
Yeah.
tried to make them at home?
I haven't tried to make them at home because I don't know if I can replicate the experience or the meat the way they do in Iowa, and so
Yeah.
I have been a little hesitant, but, so they have this big, gigantic pink truck, and across it says Mr. Pork Chop, and on the truck, people have signed it over the years,
Oh,
for years and years, like signatures all over the place. And he is so smart, this guy. He would plant himself about midway through the ride at the top of like a kind of strenuous hill, and
Yeah.
he would just rent the space from some farmer. He would find the one with the best shade, and he'd plant this truck, and then they like dip these inch thick pork chops in butter, vats of butter, and then they grill them. And then they
Mm.
just hand them to you. No knife, no fork, maybe a
were
napkin.
they like the pork chops on a stick that we've seen Tim Waltz eating, like at the Minnesota State Fair? Were they on a stick?
No
No
stick,
stick.
No
just a
stick? No
We didn't
slab
stick?
even
of
get it.
meat in your hand and you eat it and it's the most incredible thing. Well, maybe you're hungry, maybe you're tired, I don't know what, but it was the most incredible thing. And everyone knows about him. And the thing is, you can smell those things for miles because he's got his barbecues going. And just hundreds of people are all sitting under there talking and sharing, where you're from, what you're doing, why you're doing this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's just brilliant. And he passed away, sadly, the dad that started this,
Mm.
but his
Oh.
son picked up the tradition and is continuing to do it
Aw.
every year for RAGBRAI. It's just a really sweet tradition. I got two. I convinced Larry to stop twice. They were good.
Sounds like it was necessary, right?
It
Because
was
after you have it
necessary.
once, you've got a, long gap in between, maybe forever, right?
Well, we don't make pork chops like, at least not in California. You can't buy them like that with this inch thick, just this.
Yeah.
Maybe you can if you go to your butcher and ask for
Yeah.
something specific, but normally our pork chops are little kind of small. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just not the same. I haven't ridden 50 miles and I'm not
Yeah.
sitting out under a tree and dying of, exhaustion. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
What I love about that is that there's a whole story that goes behind it. It's not just
Mhm.
the pork chop, it's the riding, it's the
Yeah.
community, it's the family that's done this for,
I know. I know. I'm so glad his son picked
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
that and
Yeah.
continued it because
But
it's just
so
one of his
many.
favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of tradition things associated with doing it that just even your beautiful phrasing about the early morning light and the
Mhm.
cathedral like, look, I've driven across Iowa many times,
Oh, yeah.
driving across versus riding across on a bicycle, really taking in, like you said, the beautiful farmhouses, being closer to the earth, seeing the light without
Mhm.
being on a freeway.
Well, and
Wow.
they make it so nice for the riders because in general, most of the roads are completely blocked off to traffic. So you're not
Yeah.
normally running across traffic. Of course, there's going to be your local farmers and people that have to get produce in and out. So you're going to see some,
Mhm.
but there's this language you have to learn at RAGBRAI. And so if a car is coming towards you, you say, everybody screams, car up, so that goes down the line, right? So people know there's a car coming. Everybody needs to shift over to the right, right? But if there's
Mhm.
someone coming up from behind you, of course, it's car back, and then everybody shifts to the other side of the road. Um, but
Yeah.
and then a lot of times because it is farm country, there are rumbles in the road, like those little things that make you go "Brr, brr, 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 brr," because they're
Yeah.
trying to warn a car that there's a stop sign coming up or a crossroad or something.
Mhm.
And so then you shake your hand down below and you yell rumble, and then that goes all the way back down. So people know that they're coming up against something because you hit that on a bike. I mean, it's
Yeah.
gonna throw you a
Yeah.
little bit.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but it's like a big community event.
Yeah, well, one time
Yeah.
too, okay, I have to add one more. We have a new language too that Larry added. After one of the end of the long day, he was checking, mileage or something on his phone and dropped it. Okay. When you drop something, I don't care if it's your coffee, your pork chop, whatever, because I can kind of do things on the back of the bike. I'm not steering right. If you drop something, it's gone, honey. That's it. There's a
Oh.
thousand bikers coming and it's just over.
Oh,
So we
no.
pull over to the road and I turn around, jump off my bike, run back to where the thing is, and all the bikers are making space, yelling, phone down, and they're all splitting like like the Red Sea. And and I make a dash for it when they kind of make a space for me and run back. The phone was perfect, unscathed. It was amazing. So yeah, everybody kind of works together. If somebody
Yeah.
crashes, which we saw, a few of those, people just swarm in and
Yeah.
take care
Yeah.
of each other. One thing I noticed again, when you have a lot of people and beer drinking and music
Mm.
late at night in the towns and stuff, usually you have somebody that gets kind of riled up and drunk in a fight or what. Not once the whole
Aw.
time did I hear arguing through. I mean, and we're like all together in one room. You can hear everything. Snores,
Yeah.
people that snore. Can we move tent 78 down the way, please?
Yeah.
But you hear everything and not one fight, not one harsh word,
They're
nothing.
good.
It was
Oh my
amazing.
gosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
I
could
know.
use that like injected intravenously, right? People can be together and be
Yep.
harmonious and considerate, share their toilet paper.
Yes, you
Yeah.
mentioned it. But I
Yeah.
think part of it, there's no internet. 20,000 people descend on a town, nothing works. You have
Yeah.
no internet for a week. And
Yeah.
believe me, I think that changes us.
Yeah.
Really, truly.
Yeah.
We had no political discussions because nobody was listening to the news, right? And all the things going on. No
Hmm.
political discussions. Everybody left that at home, which was super cool to not have to hear anything either way. I don't care which side you
Yeah.
for a week. I mean, they
Yeah.
left home, but I often thought maybe that's because we really didn't have access
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
media and
Right.
Hmm.
the hype
Hmm.
and getting people riled up that way. So
Yeah.
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 a
I
lot
think
of
so.
benefits. A
So
lot of
you
benefits.
Yes.
you ended your post about RAGBRAI saying, "I might never fully understand the full meaning of RAGBRAI, but I believe clarity
Yeah.
arrives on its own. Like the wind, she can't be held. I realize now my only purpose is to be a receptacle of hope in communion with my fears, but holding space for that which I thought was impossible. Oh, how delicious. Oh, how deliciously wrong I can be.
Yeah. I mean, because I think that was it. What I have to keep telling myself, even at my age, you think you learn a few lessons by now, but you don't. I have
Right.
to keep telling myself when I am approached by something that I'm fearful of, that I don't think I can do, maybe I can't, but to just hold that fear in communion with the hope and the idea that,
Yeah.
we can do a lot more than we think we can.
Mm.
And if we just keep remembering, yeah, fears are legitimate. That is a communication to you that you might be moving into an area where you've got to be more cautious, more alert,
Mm.
and pay attention.
Yeah.
All of that was true about RAGBRAI. It was full alert. You're writing very fast paced amongst a lot of people. You're definitely on full alert. You're doing things you've never done before. But when you get to that point where you've like, oh, we can do this. Like I was so
Mm-hmm.
wrong. I was so wrong about what I was capable of and what I was not. And I just think that informs us.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're holding these messages or telling ourselves, all the time, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. Are you kidding? I can never do that. Then
Mm-hmm.
you're informing your future. You're
Yeah.
creating your future on this
Yeah.
negative messaging that you give yourselves. We all do it and we try to correct it, but sometimes you don't even know
Mhm.
that you're saying this to yourself.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my takeaway was like, when I feel that fear, then just really look at it and think about it and consider trying anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Because what's the worst? You fail. Okay, then you learn something. It's all right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But
Right.
there's
Failure.
nothing quite like feeling strong
Mm-hmm.
when you know that that feeling, that you had to conquer it, or as you said so beautifully, hold it in communion with the
Mm-hmm.
potential, right?
Mhm.
And on the other side of that, gosh, it's a lift like nothing else in life. You almost feel, I don't know, I'm thinking a little invincible.
Mhm.
And maybe you're thinking, what next? So how does that translate into other things that you're doing and other goals and opportunities that you have in mind? Does it connect and give you that inspiration?
It does. In some ways, I remember at the end of the ride, I get choked up thinking about it.
Aw.
Larry reached back for my hand when we came to the Mississippi and he said, "We did it, babe. We did it."
Aw.
Because then I knew he was afraid the whole time, like me, acting like he wasn't. But
Right.
Yeah.
he had the same fear, like, "How are we going to be able to do this?" And I thought,
Yeah.
oh, like he's the one that doesn't have it. When we
Yeah.
reached
Yeah.
back and he said, "We made it. We
Oh.
made it." And we saw that
Oh.
Mississippi and we got down to the river and put the front tire in and
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
picture. It was just like, oh, like we
Mhm.
all feel this way. This is not unique.
Right.
So
Yeah.
in your question, applying it to the future, it's like, yeah, I just got back from a thing that me, I don't like doing. I'm an introvert, but my publisher called me and said, "I'd really like you to come to the writers conference that I'm putting on." He does an annual writers conference for all his writers at Black
Mhm.
Rose Writing. And I was like, "Oh, I'm babysitting the kids. I didn't think I could." He was like, "I'd really
Yeah.
like you to come." And I'm like, "Okay." So because
Yeah.
my
Uh,
experience at writers conferences where I walk up to the sweet woman sitting next to me at the bar and she talks to me for 2 seconds, pulls out her book and says, "I'd really rather read."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have a great
yes.
track record. So the same fear like kind of slapped me like, oh,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
writers coming, I got to talk to people. And again, I came away like, how many times do I have to experience this?
Yeah.
I came away feeling like, man, Black Rose is such a family.
Yeah.
Reagan Roth is the owner, and he just creates this atmosphere. We call him Uncle Reagan.
Oh.
And he gave us the behind the scenes information that we don't know all the stuff he's doing in our favor for our benefit all the time. And
Yeah.
with all the writers there, you're getting to know each other, but we're all under the same umbrella and
Mhm.
supporting each other is like primary. And he really drew that out. And so I got to meet people and
Oh.
they're just fine and nice and welcoming and inviting. And it was a wonderful experience. And I came away learning so much about other ways to publicize your book, etc.
Yeah.
So it was
Mm.
just and again, that fear, I got that
Yeah.
email. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the RAGBRAI experience, you just have to just allow for the possibility that you might not fail. It might be better than you think it's going to
Mhm.
be. And that's a
Yeah.
great way to
Yeah.
look at life.
Yeah.
Isn't it
I
though?
think you'll do
Mm,
much more if you
I
do.
think
mm-mm-mm.
I think
Yeah.
so too. I think so
Agree.
too.
Mhm.
Well, we are so grateful that you answer our emails and say yes to
Oh, yes.
us.
Yes.
So
And you get us all misty, right?
Oh.
exactly,
In a good
misty-eyed,
way.
Oh.
laughing, crying. We
Yeah.
are so grateful to you for this conversation. Thank
Oh,
you.
I'm grateful you guys just think of me. And I mean, the first time you asked me to do a podcast, I was just living in fear. I had all the paper out, and this time now it's like I see your little note, and I'm like, okay, I'll tell that story, maybe that one. Okay, good. It's so much more
Good.
calming. But you guys do such a beautiful job with this podcast. You make your guests feel so comfortable and
Mm,
relaxed, and it's like having a little conversation in your living room. And
right.
it's just absolutely wonderful. And it's a
Mm.
privilege, really. I think all your guests feel the same way.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm just
thank
oh,
really
you.
grateful
thank
for you
you.
too. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you,
Mhm.
Vicki.
Yes. Thank you. Till next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we'll say.
Okay. I love
Mwah.
it. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.